You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network.
You're listening to the Horror Ramblings Podcast, the show about all things horror. We hope you enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the Horror Ramblings Podcast. I don't know why I have to say it. You guys know what you're listening to. If you hit that play button, you understand. If you subscribe to us, you understand. Let's just put it out there. You know what you're listening to, guys. It's that show, you know, with those two guys that do the random things, and sometimes we talk about other things other than horror, because sometimes we just gotta rant and rave about stuff. We ramble. That's why the show is called the Horror Ramblings Podcast. It's not just the horror talk show, which, I mean, we could do a spinoff, I guess. I don't know. But anyways.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, it's like, it's gotta happen. But
Yeah.
Anywho, you guys know who I am. Obviously, you know who Steven is. How you doing today, Steven?
Doing all right. Can't complain.
That's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's getting close.
Yeah.
It's almost October. And
Well, by this time, it is October.
True,
By the time
true.
everyone's listening.
You know, I always forget we put our episodes out like a week, you know, after we record. And I'm like, wait a minute, I've already brought up, you know, I'm looking forward to something that's already going to have happened, which I need to remember, because this October we're getting Friday the 13th.
Yes.
So I think we're going to have to do something special, right? Like,
I think so. I think we could do something. We'll come up with some Jason-related something or other, or Friday the 13th related something or other.
we could throw everybody off and talk about the Friday the 13th TV series.
Ooh, yes. I know that's been getting a bit of a resurgence here lately.
Yeah.
I've started to see it.
It's, I don't know, I miss horror TV, like from the 80s and the 90s. It hit different.
Yeah.
You know, there's something about it. It's just like they're doing a new Goosebumps series. I know this isn't like full-fledged horror, but you know, they're doing a new Goosebumps TV series on Disney Plus. And I don't know exactly how they're gonna do it. It's got what's his name? Justin Long, is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna be in it, which is cool. But it sort of follows a full stretch of a single story, and I don't know if they're gonna like throw in other things from like other Goosebumps stories or what into it. But I don't know. I miss just, here's the episode. It's on for 30 minutes. It's on for an hour. We're gonna scare the shit out of you. You know, stuff like Tales from the Crypt, Tales from the Dark Side. Like, I love that stuff. And I don't know, it feels like it's kind of lacking these days.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. It's a big thing, but there's quite a bit of randomness to talk about today. I really liked the idea that you came up with for the episode, but I know we have a little bit of news stuff that we got to discuss. I'm really digging that jersey. Like, I don't know why. It's been distracting. Steven's got a Friday the 13th Camp Crystal Lake jersey on. It's fucking badass, and it's just go ahead.
Well, I was going to say where people could find this particular jersey, plus a few other style jerseys that are horror related. It's on a website called Box Lunch. I think they are in connection to Hot Topic, I believe. So they deal in, I don't want to say this to make it sound bad, less gothy teen apparel. You know, cause,
it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I used to shop there a lot, and there's still a few things that I'll find every now and again on Hot Topic that I'm like, oh yeah, but for the most part, I'm not their demographic. I look at their stuff and I'm like, yeah, it's kind of cool, but I can't see myself wearing that.
I get a lot of t-shirts there, I'll say that. And that was what I was going to ask is where you got that.
Yeah,
because that jersey's badass.
And I do want to kind of share how much I paid for it, because I got it for a steal, okay? That when I saw it, and I can't remember how it kind of, I don't know, I may have gotten an email or something like that, I don't know, but something came across and was like, hey, check out all these horror jerseys. It might have been on social media site somewhere. And I thought, ooh, and I saw this, and then I clicked the link, but then I didn't see it. And I saw all the others. There was like a Child's Play Good Guy jersey, and I think there's a possibly a Michael Myers jersey, and I think a Beetlejuice themed jersey. I don't know. They're all designed about the same, and the price tag on it was $60. I was like, I guess for a jersey, that's not bad, but I was also kind of being cheap about it, and I didn't want to spend $60, but I really wanted the jersey. So I found it on the site after doing a little searching, and then I thought, well, how can I get a discount? So I started looking at discount codes like on Honey, where they have those online discount codes. Found a discount code, knocked a few, maybe like 10% off. And then I found another way to discount, and it was through PayPal. So if I paid through PayPal and they had this other special deal running, it's like, hey, if you use this payment for this purchase, we will knock $40 off. And I thought, okay, sold. So I pretty much got this thing for like $15 by the time all the discounts came in.
That is a fucking steal.
Yeah. So.
Now, speaking of just horror clothing and collectibles and stuff like that, we went to Spirit the other day. They've got a lot of really cool shirts. They've got some new blankets. I don't know why they're bringing back the lunchbox craze, like the tin lunchboxes. They had some pretty cool ones, though. I'm not going to lie. They had some, there was a Chucky one, a Friday the 13th one. There was a Halloween one. I didn't see a Freddy one, but I already have a Freddy lunchbox. So...
of course you do.
You gotta have spooky lunch sometimes. The only thing I don't have is there's a Freddy toaster that I really want. And I'll be honest, I've seen some people who... I have a decent Nightmare on Elm Street collection, but I've seen people that put mine to shame. And that's okay. If I end up having the space and the money to fill an entire room with Nightmare on Elm Street stuff, it's gonna happen. But no, I just wanted to shout that out, though. Like, if you get the chance to go to Spirit, I kind of have a love-hate thing with Spirit sometimes, because there's certain things that I'm not a big fan of, but it's not Spirit's fault. It's just sometimes they carry products for films, and I'm just like, I could take it or leave it.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, though, the clothes, the hoodies, everything that they've had this year has been really nice as far as the collectibles go. They have a Freddy hat that I really want. It's the fedora, but on the inside it's got like what looks like a silk lining, and it's the colors of the sweater.
Nice.
Only problem is my head's too big for it, so it would be just a put it up and enjoy it kind of thing, or my kid would wear it probably, knowing him. But also I sent you a thing. I don't know if you got the chance to check it out. Kind of a really random thing. The Chucky team is teaming up with Shoe Palace, and they're releasing a bunch of Chucky clothing. I thought they were going to do shoes of some kind, but I didn't see shoes when I was looking through there. I saw like some shirts. I think there was a hoodie or two.
Yeah.
There's some cool looking stuff on there, but I didn't think I saw any shoes, which was kind of a bummer. But I mean,
yeah, it does seem like that would have been a given considering the brand.
Yeah, I would have thought. I do know that they have a hoodie that I'm actually kind of interested in myself. It's Chucky when his face is all messed up, when he's stapled his face back together and everything, and the zipper goes right down the center of his face.
Nice. So
I don't know. There's just like an aesthetic to it that's really pleasing. So, but no, I mean, I just keep seeing more Halloween stuff pop up, and I really want to do just an episode maybe where we talk about just some Halloween stuff, some stores that are carrying some cool stuff. Maybe just talk about like our favorite props that we've ever seen or stuff like that. I don't know how we would exactly pound out the details of that, but no, I'm getting that itch.
Sure.
And it's bad this year. It's like I want to decorate our house real bad for the kids when they come trick or treat and stuff, but I just don't know if that's gonna happen exactly or what. I mean, I have a 10-foot skeleton in my front yard, but
yeah,
I could use like 3 more. Just saying. Just saying.
I mean, while we're on the subject of Chucky, I did want to kind of bring this up because I found it to be interesting, considering how we've talked about certain Blu-ray and distributors like Arrow and Shout and all that, and I noticed. Now, Shout Factory had released Child's Play 1 through 3 on 4K not that long ago. I think it was actually last year, and then they released the additional 4 on 4K this year. And there was an announcement from Arrow Video that they are releasing a full Chucky box set. And I thought that was kind of interesting that we have 2 distributors releasing 2 separate sets of Child's Play movies. Now, the only thing that could be why this is happening, and, for anybody who might be confused like I was about it, Arrow seems to be a distributor for overseas, more European, like the UK and whatnot. Because I noticed that a lot of their 4K releases and stuff like that sometimes are region free. Not all the time, but sometimes. And I know that I've mentioned before that they were releasing some box sets like Psycho 2, 3, and 4 on 4K and a few others that I was looking forward to. But I heard that they were only UK releases. So I'm possibly assuming they have the distribution rights in the UK and they are then now releasing those overseas, whereas Shout was able to do it here. You know what I mean? Because it just seemed odd that we had 2 competing distributors of horror media releasing the same movies, and it's usually one has the rights and another doesn't. I don't know. It struck me as odd, but if you're looking forward to that, it was announced this week or this past week. So if you're one of those that couldn't get your hands on it, now might be the time.
Interesting.
So.
It's hard to keep up sometimes with all of the stuff that's getting re-released in Blu-ray and 4K and everything else. I don't know. I keep looking forward for movies that I know will never get 4K releases, probably to get 4K releases.
I think you'd be surprised. I think that some studios are starting to listen to fans. I know that there's a trepidation that they have because obviously there's some money that has to go into it. But if you present the package as something, worth buying, I think people will snatch it up. And the fact that they're actually doing the due diligence of trying to clean up the picture, and try to remix the audio. I know audio sometimes, and I haven't quite figured this one out yet. It's like, we'll make the most pristine picture, and we'll go back to the original camera negative, and we'll clean it up nice. But then when it comes to audio, it's like, well, we kind of just left you with the 5.1 that was on the Blu-ray. We didn't feel like going to Dolby Atmos or anything like that. Or even sometimes like Vinegar Syndrome. I think they did, what was it? Gorgo. That was a recent release that they did, and it was just like, yeah, you're getting the mono, and it's like, well, okay. It's like, we took care of the picture, but that's as far as we're getting.
I think, too, like, this is another place where AI, I think, is going to be useful, because they've been able to use AI for audio for certain things and have actually been quite successful with it. I know, this isn't horror related, but I know Paul McCartney was just talking about there's going to be a Beatles song released that they had recorded some of it, but not all of it, but they're going to use AI to fill in the blanks. And all these years later, I guess the new Beatles song is going to be coming out.
You know what happens, though, is they put it through the computer, and it just goes boom, 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 and then that's how the new song comes out, and it's going to be like a new Beatles song, That's how we're doing it.
Of course, you would have a Beatles impression. I should have
just
known.
Paul McCartney. I'm just sitting there thinking about how you put it in the computer, and it just goes boom, 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 and then now we've got a new Beatles song. It's really quite fascinating. Sorry.
No, it's great. I love it. It bums me out because Paul McCartney's a vegetarian, and he was all for Weird Al doing a parody of one of the Beatles songs, but it was about meat, so Weird Al didn't do it. So, what could have been?
Hey, you know what? Kudos for Al for even going as far as getting their permission before he does a song, because he doesn't have to. That's one thing people don't seem to realize. He doesn't have to ask. It's parody. It's free, fair game. But he at least likes to be courteous enough and be like, hey, can I use your song? Can I do a parody? Just, out of kindness. I mean, that's awesome, I think.
Hey, I mean, I was talking to you not too long ago about it'd be really funny to do a YMCA parody, but make it about Camp Crystal Lake. So, I mean, there's anything up for debate Just putting that out there.
Yeah. I mean, it works. Camp Crystal Lake. We're
Exactly.
gonna get killed at Camp Crystal Lake.
And just imagine Jason Voorhees chasing you to that song.
You know what? I'm gonna throw that out there. If he hasn't written it already, we've got a fellow mutant out there, Jeff Whitmire. He does a lot of parody songs for horror. There's your assignment, Jeff. Write YMCA but Camp Crystal Lake. I guarantee you he could pull it off.
And if he pulls it off, I will see what strings I can pull. We'll even make a music video.
Yeah.
Because I want to see Jason chasing campers, and it would be really funny if there was a part in it where Jason's acting like he's going to dance to the YMCA, but he stops real quick. It would be great.
And he just starts dancing to it with his machete and everything.
And he's hacking campers while he's doing it, just dancing around, hacking people up.
Yeah, I can see it. See, we're already writing the video and everything.
Oh, hell. I'm telling you, it would be fantastic. Which, music is sort of our subject today, but I know that there's a few other things we have to bring up before we get into the main topic today.
Yes.
Because there's been a lot of exciting things. You know what I'm excited about, but is there anything else that you want to bring up before we talk about that?
I've got 3 little details I want to bring up, so if you want to save the other one for last, we can do that, just so we can kind of breeze through these. So I did want to touch on some I guess it would be full reviews at this point that have come out about Saw X. And I was already looking forward to it because I am a fan of the franchise. I think this is one of those very much like Friday the 13th, where whatever critics say, I could give a shit, because I've heard, so many negative reviews about this Saw movie or that Saw movie. It's like, oh, it's not as good. Oh, this doesn't make any sense. Oh, this is stupid. I don't like it. Whatever it may be, it's horror. So when it comes to horror, I tend to trust my gut on what I like, and I was really surprised to see so many positive reactions and reviews to Saw X. And if this matters to you, it doesn't to me, because I'm almost positive we've talked about this before here. It is the first Saw movie to be certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, which surprise, Right. I mean, I would have at least assumed the first one would have been at least one of the higher reviewed films, because I thought it was so original and different at the time.
Right.
But what is being praised the most that I saw is that I guess they gave Tobin Bell a lot to work with here, so he's very prominent in the film, so it really actually becomes like his movie for a change, and he's not just a side character. And that's what people are praising the most that I hear, is like he gets to own this role finally.
Now, that actually, to piggyback on that real quick, I just watched a review on Saw X, and the gentleman that was reviewing it, he said that a lot of the problems that the last few Saw films have had is that they got away from Jigsaw. They got away from Tobin Bell, and it really just threw a lot of the fans off. But with this film, like you said, he's so prominent in it, and the way that they write him in it, it's almost like, and we've talked about this on the show before too, it's almost like you're rooting for him to a degree, but you're also torn because you know what he's doing is wrong, but you're also rooting for him because in a way he is a victim in his own right. So I'm looking forward to it. I've heard great things about it. So
sure, yeah. So I can't wait to see it. I don't know when that will be, but again, I was already sold on watching this movie when it comes out, so I'll be there. I'll watch it, and I'll probably enjoy it for whatever it's worth. Because again, when it comes to a franchise that I love, I can be critical, but at the end of the day, I love it for what it is. I'm taking it in as I know what to expect. I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. Every franchise has its goods and bads. So,
So this next topic, I want to discuss it for a lot of reasons, because I saw some interesting reactions, especially on our Facebook page. Got 2 interesting reactions. So there was talk that I guess Miramax, they still own the rights to Halloween, and they're trying to shop it around because they're wanting to continue the franchise. And I guess they were looking at first that maybe they were looking at, what would a new chapter in the series be, because clearly you're just going to have to do a new timeline. You can't do what they've, continuing from where you left off, or at least I can't imagine you could, but you never know. And then it came down to an update to that story that they are actually shopping it around as a TV series. Now, Halloween would be one of the big franchises that has not had a series as of yet. Freddy's had one. Jason technically, and is about to have one if you want to get more specific to that character. But there's been a Friday the 13th series. You know what I mean. But again, they're developing a series about Camp Crystal Lake. I don't know the details on that as of yet. Chucky obviously has a hit series now. Probably the only one that's really succeeded in the series venue. So the question becomes, what do you do with a Halloween TV series? Do you do a Michael Myers story, or do you go the anthology route and turn it into something like American Horror Story, or in the vein of Halloween 3 and what that was supposed to be?
Now, I did hear that they were shopping around. Since you brought up the third film, there is a rumor that one of the execs has talked about exploring more of the story of Season of the Witch and turning that into a TV show. I could get behind that because, not to sound like this guy, Michael has had a lot of success with these newer films and everything, but let's not run it into the ground. Maybe gravitate a little away from Michael for a little while. Do a series, and then maybe at the end of maybe one of the seasons, or if it's going to be a limited run series, maybe reveal Michael at the end or something, and everybody be like, what the fuck? And then that could lead into something else.
I'm kind of with you. I think we need to stay away from Michael Myers. I understand that the Halloween name and brand goes hand in hand with him, but I also feel like you have such rabid fans out there for something like Season of the Witch that exploring something new and within that vein would be so much more fascinating. I genuinely feel like they need to really trust on that, because I don't know what more you can do with Michael Myers that has not already been done. Because genuinely think about it, characters like Freddy and Jason really stopped at the turn of the millennium. I mean, in all honesty, Freddy vs. Jason would pretty much be their swan song. We're not counting the remakes.
Yeah.
So they pretty much had their day. They, as much as I would love to see them back, they had a consistent storyline that stopped. You know what I mean? So it's like their timeline has been done. Michael, on the other hand, has had multiple timelines, multiple story arcs that have continued different threads. So they have explored various ways to tell that story. And it was fascinating, okay? Because every which way you look at it, okay, well, Laurie Strode died, and she had a kid, and then he goes after the kid. Oh, she faked her death, and now she's hiding around. Oh, well, she was never his sister to begin with. So you see all these different things that you've explored with that. What more could you do outside of just, even talking about the remakes? I mean, they explored a different lens of that, seeing him as a kid. I don't find it as fascinating, but it was something different. I can appreciate that. What more can you do? Freddy, Jason, they have avenues we have yet to explore.
Yeah.
I don't know what more we have for the shape.
And see, even with Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, I feel like, as much as it pains me to say this, some fictional characters I think they should just leave be. I think it's cool that they're doing the Camp Crystal Lake series, and I hope that shows some promise. If they wanted to do a prequel film to Nightmare on Elm Street that talked about everything that happened to Freddy before he got burned, I'd be down for that too. But at the same time, fans want certain people to play these characters. Everybody wants Kane Hodder to be Jason. Everybody wants Robert Englund to be Freddy. The sad truth of it is these characters have been around for 30 plus years. Mm-hmm. The actors are getting older. There's stories that could still be told, but you have to almost tiptoe around telling them the proper way. And I understand not everybody's going to be happy. Not everybody was happy about the Halloween trilogy, that come out. It happens. But at the same time, yeah, with, like you said, they've played out every possibility, I think, that they could for Michael Myers.
Yeah.
So unless they decide to do some twisted thing where Laurie Strode ended up being the psychopath and Michael was trying to stop her.
But then I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're walking on eggshells with it.
This is all the more reason we should have some new original ideas. I love Michael Myers. I think it's a fascinating character, but the door needs to close at some point, and again, like I said, with Freddy and Jason, I feel like they have stories to tell. And I know that other studios, I'm looking at Universal, have continued to re-explore certain monster characters that they're known for. Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, the Wolfman. If you can tell compelling stories in a different way, go for it. That's what I really dug about the Invisible Man remake that came out a few years ago, because it was like, holy shit, it was something different.
Well, and that's the thing. They at least, I'll give them credit there, they are putting ideas out that people might not have thought about, or people wanted a little bit more context about. Nobody thought about what Renfield's life was like without Dracula. Then we got the movie Renfield, which I think is a sleeper hit. It's a great film. It just didn't get the love that it deserved. The Last Voyage of the Demeter. There's another perfect example. I always wondered about that. They touch on that in the stories about the ship coming across and everybody being dead on the ship. But then you get to see that, and they make a story about that, and you get to see from firsthand where those people were, what their mindset was, what was happening. Yeah. I mean, I'll give them that all day, but it's like the studios have just, and I hate to talk about the studios like this, but it's like they're in this little safety bubble, and they don't want to get out of it. And, that's where indie films kind of get, and I know I've said this before, but that's where indie films kind of, I think, win out sometimes. I mean, perfect example. Look at how iconic Art the Clown's become. Art the Clown is proof right there that you can create new slasher icons. You don't have to focus on the originals. You can create new ones. Yeah. Megan, I'll even put that out. Is Megan as famous as Chucky? No. And I understand that completely. Chucky's been around forever. Chucky is Chucky. I mean, Chucky's one of those things you either love him or you hate him. Yeah. But Megan, I keep seeing that movie talked about more and more. It's just, it's proof that it's like ripping off a Band-Aid. It's going to take time for people to sort of gravitate toward new slasher villains and new characters, but it's not impossible. So, and just because you embrace a new one doesn't mean the others have to go away. You can still love the ones you've loved up until this point. You just found you a new one to like on top of that. So, and see, that drives me crazy, because some people are in that mindset. Well, if I like this, then I can't like this. It's like,
you can.
No, you can like it all. You can like whatever you want. I think we need another Killer Clowns movie. I'm just going to put that out there.
Well, if we get some, if I guess that new game comes out and gets some heat, and maybe people are like, oh yeah, people are loving this, studios might take note, but then we go back into that reboot cycle where it's just like...
But, I will also say, though, and I know we've talked about this before and I've brought it up, instead of remaking movies that are really popular, why not remake movies that might not have done so well? I know Killer Clowns in the 80s when it came out, it was like a cult following type film. Like, it didn't do amazing, but it had enough attention to where obviously it's still around. Yeah. What, you don't even have to do a remake. Do a sequel. Maybe there were even worse clowns in deeper space, and when they found out that their compadres got killed, they're like, well, fuck you guys, we're coming to Earth, and it took them this many years to get to Earth. I mean, I'd be down with that. You could even do like darker clowns. Yeah. So I don't know.
I wish I could remember where I heard this, and I feel like I know what podcast I was listening to, but I actually heard a very compelling argument about the studio system and what they're about. I mean, pretty much on the same page of what we're talking about now, but there was a writer discussing the remake problem that Hollywood has and the reboots, and it's almost like they're playing this game where they see that it's... Oh, I remember what it was. It was Eli Roth. He was talking about it. I remember it wasn't a podcast. I think it was The Last Drive-In, matter of fact. But he was talking about how studios don't take chances on new IP because if it fails, then that person, whoever created it, you messed up. You had a shit idea and it didn't work. So, you're out. But then if you do a reboot and it fails, then it's just like, well, we didn't realize that people didn't care enough about this thing. So it's fine and you're safe. So it's like you're playing this safety net, just doing reboots, because then you can just blame it on the IP versus a new IP that no one knows and be like, see, no one wants to see it. So it's your fault for even attempting it. And it's just, that's bullshit. You got to give things a chance.
It's even gotten to the point now where they're remaking movies that aren't even that old.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect example, and I know these movies are a little older than I like to think sometimes, but not that old. The Harry Potter movies, they're already talking about remaking all of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that's still pretty fresh with people. Like, people are still attached to those movies, it's drives me crazy. Yeah,
but I'm sure a lot of people would be like, because we just lost another actor this past week, and I didn't realize until my wife had kind of pointed it out how many people from that series are gone now, and it's like, oh shit, that's quite a bit. So it's a shame, but that'll be another reason for them to push on it. Be like, see, all these people are gone, we got to bring it back and cast new people or whatever. But you know what? If you're gonna do it as a series, why not? That's something different.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's as long as it's a TV series, I guess I'm cool with that, because they were going to, I guess, look at some things from a different angle. They were going to add some more stuff from the books that wasn't in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of those things where it's like, I'm okay with it, but at the same time, I'm like, it's all preference, I guess. Explore other aspects of film franchises that already exist if you want to. Just stop remaking the same stuff.
Yeah,
it gets old.
I did want to bring this up too, and I really don't know where else to stick it in at, but since we're talking about shit like this, it felt, because I found it fascinating, but it was about a movie that I'd mentioned was coming to 4K, Duel, Steven Spielberg's first TV movie, and I have recently been rewatching, and for anybody who listens to Super Mega Crash Beyond, you'll understand why this is suddenly an obsession. This past week's episode, we were talking about the Incredible Hulk TV series, or at least primarily the pilot episode of that. And that just kind of got me in a mood, and I was like, you know what, I kind of want to go back and revisit this series for a little bit, just maybe rewatch a few episodes. So I've been watching a few, and I got to this one episode, and I noticed some footage look very familiar. Because it was about, he had ran into this woman truck driver, and she was trying to steal this truck back, and then these other people had this truck, they had illegal something in it, and so it became this chase around these very dilapidated hills of California, I guess, or on the outskirts in Nevada somewhere, and the chase, it was the big truck and a red car, and I was like, why does this look so familiar? And I was like, this looks like shit from Duel, man. And I did some trivia research on it, and sure enough, they lifted so many scenes from Duel and implanted it in this episode, much to Steven Spielberg's chagrin, because he did not know Universal permitted this, and there wasn't really anything he could do about it from a legal standpoint because it wasn't his. If you know what I mean. Like, they had the legal right to do whatever they wanted to. But from that point on, he wrote a deal in to ensure that they would never be lifting footage from his movie again and supplanting it into whatever. Like, even the ending of the episode pretty much is that end scene from Duel, where the truck falls off the cliff. And I'm just sitting there watching it, and they're playing the entire scene, milking it for every minute. And I was like, I don't think you earned this scene. Duel did. The scene was over the moment the truck went over the cliff. I mean, damn. But I don't know. It was interesting, and I just kind of wanted to bring it up.
It's insane.
Okay, so before we get to the bigger thing that we want to talk about, one last thing, and I wanted to talk about this because I'm almost positive I kind of championed this idea in a way on this show at one point. And now they're kind of doing it. So if you didn't hear, The Last Drive-In got renewed for season 6. they're talking about how they're changing the format and expanding for the year. So what that means is, or at least to my understanding, if I heard or read everything correctly, instead of doing the double features every few weeks and then taking a break, they're going to split everything up. So you're going to have a longer season throughout the year. So he'll do one movie a night every 2 weeks. So it'll be like one Friday, 2 more weeks to get another movie, and so on and so on and so on. So that way you can kind of stretch the movies out throughout the year along with the specials and whatnot. So kind of getting more Joe Bob throughout the year versus having to wait in chunks like we've had to do. I'm excited about this because that is one of my biggest frustrations with the show for me personally, is when he's showing a good solid movie, I'm there at 8 o'clock, when it starts. I'm there for it. But once you get into the second feature at 11 o'clock, I'm half tempted to bow out, because I'm just like, fuck, it's 11 o'clock. I don't know how much longer. I'm tired. I can't help it. I'm not youthful like I used to be. Sometimes I can do it, but when it comes to, sitting around watching the movies, that's usually when I bow out. So this gives me an opportunity to actually watch the movies as they come out. And if there happens to be one that maybe I'm just not interested in, it's still okay, but, I don't have to worry about the whole double feature thing. And again, I know I don't have to, but I just feel like if you're kind of doing the Twitter chats and everything, talking to your buddies, like, our buddy Leah out there who's going to the damn Jamboree this weekend. Lucky duck. All of you out there at the Jamboree this weekend, I hope you're having a fun time. I was wanting to be there and just not happening. Anyway, I'm getting upset thinking about you lucky ducks out there. Anyway, yeah, I'm excited about that. I hope that I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad that the show's getting a lot more love. It just seems like it grows every year. You know what I mean? So excited, real excited.
Joe Bob forever.
Mm-hmm. And finally, let's talk about that Toxic Avenger teaser. Because you sprung it on me like I was off working most of that time whenever you messaged, and so I didn't get your message until a little bit later. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, son of a bitch. Yeah. Like I was ready to see it right then and there, so I stopped everything I was doing.
I was about to send you the link to it and everything, because I'm like, I don't know what had driven me to look on my notifications, but I swiped over and new Toxic Avenger trailer. I was like, you gotta be shitting me. Mm-hmm. Pressed play, and I was like, holy shit. I was like, I need to message Steven. Mm-hmm. God, it feels like a trauma movie. Like I can't remember who you said had said it, but you had told me somebody said it looked like a trauma movie that was polished just a little bit.
Just a little, yeah.
It really does.
Mm-hmm.
I got that feel. It's got that grittiness to it that makes it feel like a movie from like the 80s.
Yeah.
I appreciate the hell out of that.
And that chaotic trauma energy, like just all the clips that they were doing right at the beginning, the news story and whatnot, that felt so familiar in that vein of, trauma films. And I don't know if you noticed, but the second time I don't know, my brain didn't connect the dot, but the second time I saw it, I was like, son of a bitch, how did I not catch that? The newscasters, the background behind them, that's the trauma team logo at the beginning of every movie when they show the movie and everything. And I was like, that's awesome. And all we really got out of I don't want to say none of that's in the base movie, but I guess like footage from the movie that's not newscasters or whatnot. It seemed to be a recreation of the scene from the restaurant from the original movie where those guys had come in and they were pretty much tearing up the place, and then Toxic comes in and does his thing, and at least they gave us some gore, by God. They were at least showing
the minute he slapped that guy, the minute he slapped that guy's jaw off, I was like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
And, like I said, I don't know exactly what all Toxie's powers are going to be in this. Obviously, he's not, like, huge. It is Peter Dinklage, just as Peter Dinklage, with the broom. Well, not the mop, I'm sorry. with the mop, knocking off people's jaws. I don't know exactly what all his abilities are going to be. Obviously, he's strong.
Mhm.
I think the fact that they didn't hire somebody to be this just big hulking person, I think that helps this.
Yeah.
Because I know I had texted you about this, but I think that him being smaller stature and everything will make the villains in the film kind of undermine him, not think that he's worth their time.
Yeah.
And it's going to be very misleading when he obviously does what he did to them in the trailer when he messes them up.
Yeah.
And I appreciate at the end of it when it pulls away from the building and you see the outside and you just hear the whoosh, 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 and you see the blood spatter all over the walls, well, and the windows and everything. I love that. I think that's fantastic. And then at the end when the two newscasters are like sort of, I don't want to say they're bickering, but he's like the Toxic Avenger, and that lady's like, I think it's kind of hip or whatever she says. It's been a second, but I don't know. It feels exactly like what you described. That person reviewing it said. Yeah. Like a trauma film, just polished just a little.
Just a bit.
And I love that. I think that's the right direction. I hope that we see Lloyd in it. I hope Lloyd has a cameo. I hope maybe he even talks to, like you had said, I hope he maybe even talks to Toxie once. That would be cool.
I think it would be.
But I trust it. Like I've seen mixed reviews of the trailer. You know, there's some people like nitpicking it, like, I don't know about this, but I think it's gonna be what every trauma film is. Mm-hmm. Something that's fun to watch, and while you're watching it, you're going, what the hell is happening? So.
And anybody who's sitting there nitpicking it makes me wonder what their relation to the Toxic Avenger is. Because for me, it's the one trauma film that I probably know forward and backward. It's the one I've probably seen the most. Probably like so many others, this is your entry point into trauma. And like you said, there's the energy in it. Something about it. It's on that level. And until I get to see it in full, I'm not going to say that this is going to top what they had done before. I'm not saying that at all, but it could be a fun side by side, something you have. It's like, which Toxie do I want to see today? Do I want to see, big Toxie Melvin, or do I want to see little Toxie Winston? I don't know.
Yeah. The feel I got from it is it's sort of a love letter to the original. And it's to me, I feel like this film and the original are going to sort of be, now just follow me here because this is going to get weird real quick. It's going to sort of be like the which Joker is better debate, and I always compare it to Jack Nicholson and Heath Ledger. Mm-hmm. And the reason I do that is because vastly different performances. Yeah. Jack Nicholson's the best goofy Joker. I think Heath Ledger was the best dark Joker. Same thing with these movies. The original movie is going to, you love that movie for the reasons you love it. This new movie, I feel like you're going to love it, but you're going to love it for entirely different reasons than what you loved the original for. Yeah. So when it comes to that kind of stuff, I don't think that people should go in comparing. I think you should just be like, hey, they love the original Toxic Avenger. They wanted to tell their own version of it. Mm-hmm. And I think that if people do that, if they have that mindset with it, they'll appreciate it even more. Right. But I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be fantastic. I might, if it does end up in some movie theaters, I think I would be down to go to the theater to see it.
For sure, yeah. I'd support this 100%.
Yeah, meeting Lloyd and then meeting some of the people that I got to meet at the trauma booth at the festival, at the convention that we went to. They're all just real down to earth people, and they love giving everybody shit, and I love that. Mm-hmm. So I'll support these guys in whatever endeavors. So yeah, but yeah, no, I'm excited. Mm-hmm.
But that's all the news I got for the week. So you want to talk about some music?
Yes, I want to talk about it.
Okay, so I guess I want to explain what I want to talk about here. I guess I just want kind of a music appreciation episode for certain horror films that just have iconic scores, or maybe even talk about some horror film scores that maybe people don't even remember. Like, they don't necessarily remember the score, but it's so banging. Because first of all, I want to talk about this fascinating little tidbit that happened on Discord. And first of all, friend on Discord, Deva, he pointed out the show that you were looking for last week on that was on G4. It was called The Electric Playground.
Okay, now that you're saying, yep.
And I told him, I was like, yeah, I just knew that Attack of the Show didn't seem right, but I couldn't think of any other names. I said, but when he said it, I was like,
about it.
Yeah. So there you go. There's that answer. And the other thing that happened, and this is not really the reason I wanted to talk about it, but it was just a fascinating little tidbit that just, I don't know. And I'm not shaming the guy. So Jed, just hang on a second. But Lace was talking about, my co-host from Super Mega Crash Beyond said that she was going to go see Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. And I thought, oh, that's cool. Lucky. And for most people who might know that band name, the first song that would come to mind, even if you didn't know them, the song Red Right Hand would be the one that people are like, oh yeah, I know that song. Now, our buddy Jed apparently said he had never heard it, and it just kind of struck us as odd, because we're like, really? And because we knew that he had seen the Scream movies, and it was a prominent tune in all the Scream films, and yet it just didn't register in his memory bank. So I was like, wow, it's fascinating to me, because I know that some people don't hear music the same way I do. And my wife is a prime example of that. Like, I'll hear themes to certain movies and I know it. And I'm like, yes. And she's like, what? Like, it just doesn't click. Like, she'll hear it and she's like, I don't know what that is. I'm like, But again, I'm hearing it because my brain's registering it. Hers isn't. And that could very much be in the same way his is. So if we're talking about these scores, for whatever reason, it's done something for us that is registered on some level, like this is iconic for some reason or another. And I think I want to try to explore certain ones that maybe people are unfamiliar with, because Halloween, everyone knows that theme. Yeah. The piano, Jaws, same thing. Everyone knows the dun-it, dun-it, dun-it. It's iconic.
Yeah.
But what if we could find something that's maybe related to, or maybe people don't think about? So, great example. I think this is one of the sparking points for me that started this whole thing. Is Nightmare on Elm Street has a very iconic theme song. And here's me bringing this up for a change. How about that? But Nightmare on Elm Street has a very iconic theme, very iconic score from, I think it's Charles Bernstein. And
yes, if I remember right.
When you hear it through almost every film, I won't say all of them, but through almost every film, that theme is present in some form or fashion. At least I don't know what instruments they're using, but the dun, 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 that theme. Go to Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Does not utilize that theme once.
Yeah.
And it was composed by Christopher Young, who might be better known for Hellraiser, which is another banging score.
Yes,
that is
very much so.
Like, everything about that just exudes that gothic kind of feel of hell,
Someone said something about the score from Hellraiser. They said it sounds beautiful and tormenting all at the same time. Yes. Much like the Cenobites. You don't know if it's music from heaven or music from hell.
And it's those little things like that, the choices the composer makes, that just, it's beautiful.
I was gonna piggyback on what you were saying about the Nightmare on Elm Street theme song.
Mm.
One thing about that I love is it starts really subtle, and then as you listen, you have these huge breaks where I don't even know what instrument it is, but it's almost like you feel a vibration when certain notes get hit.
Yeah.
In the song, and as that's happening, like, you just know that something's about to happen in the film.
Yeah.
But it makes you feel uneasy.
Right.
And that's one thing I love about that soundtrack. I mean, Freddy's even got one of the most, iconic songs that isn't even a score for the movie, though. If you think about the 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. I mean, come on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly my point. So with Christopher Young's version of the theme in Nightmare on Elm Street 2, I feel like he brings something that's very haunting to it. And it's not necessarily like, if I played it for the uninitiated, someone who knew Nightmare on Elm Street, but maybe wasn't very well of the score, I guarantee you if I played Charles Bernstein's theme, they'd be like, oh, that's Freddie. And then I played Christopher Young's theme, there would be a disconnect because they don't have similar feels to them. You know what I mean? They're completely different for two completely different movies if you kind of think about it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it works for me. I've always been fascinated with that theme because you never hear it again. It's solely within part 2, but it works. You know, It really brings a different energy to the movie, and I've always been fascinated with it.
Well, and part 2's always been sort of like the bastard child of Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, it's a great movie, just it never quite fit with the others.
Yeah, and the score kind of accents that beautifully, but as people rediscover this new movie and have a greater appreciation for it, so does the score, I would hope. Because, as I said, it's one of the things that's always stuck with me with that film from the first moment I saw it. If anything, I appreciated the hell out of that score from day one. And then, as I've watched the movie, I've grown to appreciate it even more as this outsider film that just, doesn't really mesh with the others, but still it's good in its own right.
Yeah.
So I really found that to be fascinating, how no one ever speaks of it, and I think that's where I wanted to kind of really go with a lot of this, is just touching on some forgotten scores that maybe no one thinks about. And I would hope, I will at least say with Nightmare on Elm Street, that's kind of where a lot of this comes from too, is I found out that all of the scores for the Nightmare on Elm Street films are available now to stream on Spotify and wherever. Mm-hmm. And when I found that one, I was really excited because I was like, holy shit, the full score for part 2, I get to hear that theme again, on an actual track that's official, not somebody's YouTube video.
I will say this much about Nightmare on Elm Street, not just the scores, but just the soundtrack in general. There's some bangers on it.
Sure, yeah.
Like, so much good music. And, like, it's hairband music, too, which is just fantastic. Now,
but at the end of the day, I mean, they've always kind of stuck with that one theme, but I appreciate that other people have tried to weave in a little bit, but the fact that they stuck with that versus what Christopher Young did and said, no, I'm going to do something different,
Now, New Nightmare, I think they still used the theme from the original, but I feel like they might have made it darker. Maybe. Yeah,
I feel like that there were some variations to it, but it was a wholly original score.
And at the end of the film, we get this like a gothic theme almost. It's like a Angels and Demons theme almost. I think if I remember correctly, it's been a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I need to refresh myself and have a Nightmare on Elm Street movie marathon.
Yeah.
I have one.
Okay, go for it. Go. No, go for it.
One that I just heard the other day out of nowhere. Phantasm.
Yes. Oh God, yes.
Phantasm has one hell of a score. I'm probably gonna get his name. It's Fred Miro and Malcolm Seagrave.
Yeah.
They're the composers responsible for that. And not to sound all gimmicky here, you listen to the score from this. It's a tall score for the tall man. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
It's got this just prominence to it. You hear it and you instantly feel like something is coming.
Yeah.
That's the best way I can describe it. Like it feels like it fills a room. It's music, but it feels like it fills the room.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I heard it the other day. I might have had because sometimes I play like a Halloween playlist of just, it can be anything from the Monster Mash to the Jaws theme to anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it came on, and I kid you not, as soon as it started, I just sort of froze for a moment, and I just got this feeling in my chest like of heaviness. It takes a lot for music to do that, but it works.
It has, when you first hear it, and I'm not saying it's identical in any way, I'm just tonally, there's, like you said, there's something about it that's very haunting, and it just kind of lingers very much like, I guess, the theme of the film itself being something about, I know the interpretation can be vague, because that's a whole rabbit hole. I don't want to go down that. Anyway, ghostly phantasms, it's like it works within the concept of the name. And what I felt like it had very similar echoes to was The Exorcist. The tubular bells, not really playing on those same chords or anything like that, not mimicking it, but a similarity to the essence of it. You know what I mean? So I'm not trying to say that they ripped it off, but there's just something familiar about it within that line. But yeah, no, Phantasm, oh yeah, that's got a great theme that I really feel like caps the movie on both ends. So yeah, that was great pull. Great pull.
And that's a slept on score for a slept on film.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's slept on a lot because it's a hard movie to sell, you know what I mean? But I highly recommend it. If you've never watched Phantasm, just watch it. Just sit down and watch it. You might be lost by the end of it, possibly, but you won't forget it. It'll stick with you. Especially Angus Scrimm, man. I mean, that's a franchise we may just have to dig into. I don't want to go too deep into it, but okay, so I was trying to figure out which one I wanted to go to next, and I think I'm gonna save the other one. I'm gonna go to this one next. So I wanted to bring this film score up mainly because I had never seen the film until just the other day. And what was interesting about it is when I heard the theme that I was well familiar with, it was like, okay, so that's what this is from. And the only reason I knew what the theme was is because I'm a fan of the band and I've listened to their greatest hits soundtrack that they've done. And that is the band Goblin, who most people would know from like the Italian zombie movies like Zombie 2. And they even did a score for Dawn of the Dead. So I kind of want to touch on them in general right here because they've done a lot. But the movie specifically that it triggered was Deep Red. Okay. It's Argento's Galileo film, Giallo, however you want to say it, people. I know that's a point of contention. But the main theme to Deep Red I have heard on their Greatest Hits album so many times. And then when I heard it, when I watched the movie, it was like, I don't know, a puzzle piece just snapped together. And I was like, holy shit, I love this. I love this theme. And I've never really done the digging on it because I knew that the tracks on these greatest hits were from these films. In fact, that's one of the reasons I was digging it out.
Yeah.
Because there were some tracks on there I knew from Dawn of the Dead and Zombie. And I kind of wanted to hear them. So that was kind of a treat for me. And while I'm talking about that now, how you feel about Italian cinema, Italian horror films, I guess I should be more specific because I know it could vary. I think I like Italian spaghetti westerns more than I do their horror films, but I'm starting to appreciate them just a little bit because like I said, I watched Anthropophagus not that long ago. I watched House by the Cemetery the other day, and then now I've watched Deep Red. So I'm trying to understand it, The score for the film, in my mind, doesn't necessarily always work within the film. You know what I mean? Sometimes it just feels like it doesn't quite match. And from what I understand, when the score was written by Goblin for this movie, for Deep Red, they hadn't seen the movie. They were just like, hey, could you write a score? Sure. And then they did, and then boom. And they probably had notes, obviously, but they weren't scoring to the film. They just wrote the score, and then they put the music in after the fact. So, understandably, sometimes the music doesn't quite mesh with the tone. But it's still a banging score. And that's what I wanted to point out. Whether or not it works in the film, I know that's a detriment to it, but you cannot help how amazing the score is. Especially the main theme, which I feel like they do, when they do utilize that, it's perfect. Every time you hear it, whatever they're playing it over, it's perfectly aligned. The rest of it, not so much. But that right there is absolutely perfect. And I think it's great. But with them in general, I think another movie that I've yet to watch that I feel is on my list of things I'll get around to is Suspiria. Great fucking score. I've listened to the score of that numerous times.
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, the bells at the beginning and how it just builds. And then I don't know the instruments either, but just how it plays, and just builds. And then you got the witch, and it just kind of does. I don't know. It's fabulous fucking score. That's why I love Goblin, because they come up with some bangers. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Whether or not it works for the film or not, it doesn't matter. Their music is top notch.
It draws you in. Even,
Yeah.
you know, and I know off mic I kind of brought this up to you. The right music in a film is just as important as not having music in a film. It builds a sense of dread. It builds a sense of security. It draws you in to the film and makes you feel a certain way. I know I brought up Funny Games. Doesn't really have any music in it. You know, that movie does a lot of things. It doesn't have music. Sometimes it lingers on things a little too long, just enough to make you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's all about drawing you in. So
I mean, it's the same. There are very few movies that don't utilize a score, and I feel like if they're done correctly, you never know it. Like you said, with Funny Games, you might not pay close enough attention to realize. And I think the very first time I ever noticed or was ever unaware until after the fact that a movie didn't have a score was Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. Not one bit of score in that movie. And it never registered because I think the birds themselves are kind of your musical cues throughout the movie, and you're not really taking note of that.
Yeah.
But they are your background music.
Yep.
And they kind of encompass that, so you're just not focused on that. You're focused on everything else, so you never notice that there aren't these little musical cues kind of guiding you through the movie. And I always found that to be fascinating. Once I learned that, I was like, son of a bitch, it doesn't. And I think that was the very first movie that I noticed or had ever encountered that before. And it's rare that films do that now, but I feel like when it's done very intentionally and for good reason. Because I've seen numerous movies where a score just seems out of place. Not like Deep Red where the score just is off, but maybe something's over intensified, like they're really trying to sell this. Is like, yeah, all right, you can bring it down, pal, that's a bit too much, you need a little subtlety in this. But no, I just good stuff, man. And I will, I guess while we're on the subject of them, I do want to talk about their score in Dawn of the Dead, because I think that was probably one of the first films that I noticed or took note of their work. And the only thing that bugs me about that movie is they are kind of sharing credit for the score, because they use their music for a lot of great scenes. And I feel like Romero used their music perfectly. Like wherever it was inserted, it never felt out of place. You know what I mean? Like even in the upbeat helicopter thing where they're trying to block off the mall, it seems a little playful and upbeat. But for the scene, it works. It didn't feel out of place. But then the film also intersperses it with these. They almost sound like cues from old movies, like they're stock cues. You know what I mean? And it sounds like it came out of the 1940s or 50s, and it's just like, well, that's kind of jarring when you compare it to the music you were using over here, and now you're using this. It sounds like something that came out of an old black and white era film. So I don't know why they had to kind of share credit with the music like that. It was a little odd. I don't want to say it's off-putting, like it ruins the movie or anything, but it's a bizarre choice. Why not just utilize them for the full score? I don't know. I don't know the story behind it or anything, but just something I kind of wanted to touch on while we were on Goblin. Anyway, what else you got in the music cues?
Candyman.
Candyman. There we go. Okay.
Candyman's a good score.
Yeah.
Haunting.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I can say about it. It's another one of those ones. It's heavy.
Mm-hmm.
I feel, and I don't even know how to describe it. Like, I've not had a soundtrack give me goosebumps before, but listening to Candyman gives me goosebumps when I hear it. And
I can hear that. Yeah.
I feel like it almost personifies Tony Todd to a degree. You hear his voice, and it's just. It makes you feel a certain way when you hear Tony Todd talk.
Yeah.
If you're my wife, it does something to you that I'm not going to mention because this is a kid's show, damn it. But he just, he has that voice, and when you hear him say, "Be my victim," you're just like, you're pulled into it.
Yeah.
And I feel like the score in this perfectly, it's not even that it's used, to me, it's not used for the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like just theme music for Tony Todd himself.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's why I love the theme so much. I love the character of Candyman, and hearing the theme just instantly makes me think of the character. Not so much the movie, but just makes me think of the character himself.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. No, I can get behind that. It's like you said, haunting. I think would be the appropriate term for that. There's just something about it that really does encapsulate that, especially with him being behind it. I wholeheartedly agree with that for sure. Okay. This one I recently rediscovered, and why it never stuck with me initially is beyond me. But when I heard it again, I feel like I've seen this movie more than once. I know I have, at least 3 or 4 times. And again, I don't know why the score never clicked. And maybe it's not because the score itself really stands out beyond the main theme. Mm-hmm. But you cannot deny how powerful this main theme is. And that is the main theme for Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. When that movie starts, you are pretty much treated with that theme. And it's intense immediately. Just like, dun. And it stays on that note for just about 10, 15 seconds. And then weaves in, comes back up, and just kicks in this. I don't know. I'm trying to think of the instruments they're using, because it kind of has I guess it's a piano, but it kind of has like an off sound of the piano, you know what I mean? So maybe it's a very specific type of piano, and it just hits these few keys, and then you hear these little tingle bells in the back, a few little drum beats, and it's like it's building this crescendo into hell, you know what I mean? Into this deep darkness of somebody's soul. And then you just little touches of everything. And it just, I don't know, go listen to this theme. Just look up Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer main theme by Robert McNaughton. And holy shit, tell me it doesn't give you the creeps. You know what I'm saying? It just crawls up your spine. And even like the tingles, maybe that's what it is. It's just ding, ding, like it's, and then you have like a little vocal growling off in the back, and I'm assuming that's supposed to be like audio from maybe the movie that they kind of distorted, pitched down a little bit. That's maybe something he said in the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. It sets the stage for the film beautifully, I think. And there's a few other bits in the score that are memorable, but I don't feel like they had much more than that as like their main theme. Because if you try to pull up the soundtrack, it's a bunch of audio clips from the movie, a few other little stings here and there, but nothing that really stands out beyond that main theme.
Now, I have one that's kind of weird, and it's not so much the score as just, I would consider the score in it part of it, but the music in it in general was better than what I think a lot of people realize, and that's The Phantom of the Opera, but it is the version with Robert Englund in it. It's a horror movie.
Okay.
It's typical like opera style music. There's a lot of violin in it, but every scene in this movie, the music just seems to be well put together as a whole. And there's especially a scene where Englund is playing the violin. The Phantom is playing the violin for the woman, and there's just something about it that it's beautiful. But at the same time, it makes you feel uneasy.
Yeah.
And the whole plot of, and I'll just bring it up real quick, the whole plot of this film is that Robert Englund is a musician. He wants to write music. He wants his music to be loved. He makes a deal with the devil. And the devil says, your music will be loved forever, but you will not be. And he becomes disfigured because of it. And so we get our Phantom.
Mm-hmm.
And in the music, you can feel this just... There's beauty there, but at the same time, it's almost like you can feel this malice underneath it. It's a movie that I think I can't do justice to the soundtrack for this film. It's one of those things where if you get the chance to watch it, it's actually a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
And it kind of got shit on because it's Phantom of the Opera, but it's like a gory horror film. So, but definitely listen to the music for it. I'm sure you can at least find it on YouTube.
You would hope so, yeah.
But it is...
I mean, I feel like a lot of the stuff that we're kind of pointing people to, you should be able to find on YouTube to listen to. So shouldn't be hard, even if it's just something, I don't know, simple. Most of the time, a lot of this can be found. In fact, man, I don't want to go too deep into this rabbit hole, but my brother rediscovered, like he messaged me the other day and says, dude, I found this old TV show that no one seems to know about. Like, if I was to mention it on this show, I guarantee you no one would know what I'm talking about. And I'm going to throw it out right now. I'm not going to say much more than this. It's called The Wizard, and it came on in 1986 for one season. That's it, okay? If you know what that is, I love you. I love you, because we've never met anybody. Like, we had one episode recorded on a VHS tape that we watched time and again because we had it. You know, we didn't have reruns and streaming like we did back then. VHS tapes were our reruns. And he found that episode that we recorded. He's like, I could not believe how much of this show or this episode that I actually remembered. And he sent me the link, and I watched it that night, and I was like, son of a bitch, man. What the hell? But anyway, I don't want to go too deep into that. Okay, so while I was just recently talking about Goblin and all that, I do want to touch on a different but similar score. And I say similar because it's another Dead movie. And that's the score for Day of the Dead. That was actually composed by John Harrison. And he kind of utilizes, if you're familiar with the tones and everything in the movies, this would be circa 1985, I think is when that movie came out. So very much in the pocket of that decade. The type of instruments that are being used, kind of going into some synth territory. But it's not necessarily all synth. I mean, I know John Carpenter kind of went heavy on the synth stuff with a lot of his scores, which I can probably bring up a few of his while I'm thinking about it. But John Harrison's score for Day of the Dead, it kind of harkens back a little bit to what Goblin was doing, but then it kind of takes its own form. Mm-hmm. And it's very calm at times. Then it has this very deep, dark-seated layer to it when things need to get intense. It's very well rounded in regards to fitting with what needs to be happening within the movie. And unlike Dawn of the Dead, where you had this kind of mishmash of music, this is all consistent. And I feel like it works very well. There's one track that I'm trying to think of, and I'm actually kind of thumbing through it right now because it's one of my all-time favorites every time it starts to play. Because this is one of those soundtracks that I'll kind of go to when I just need some background music. And I think it's just, it kind of works, you know, because one minute you got something that's just kind of going, and the next minute it's kind of calm and relaxed and everything. But I can't think of the damn tune or which one it is. But it's as things are kind of pumping up, you know what I mean? It's a little bit of the intense portion of the score. And I probably won't find it because it'll take me forever. I wish I'd just jotted it down, man. But if I can figure it out, whatever it is, before it's all over with, I'll figure it out. But no, Day of the Dead, George Romero's Day of the Dead soundtrack, highly recommend that one. I think that's a one that slept on. I don't hear a lot of people talk about. So
I can see it.
Yeah. Anyway, what else you got?
Let's see. I got two that I'm thinking on. Well, three actually. Let's do this one. The Fog.
Okay.
Now, it's been a minute since I've seen The Fog, and I'm talking about
John Carpenter's.
Yeah, you know, they did the remake, but I'm talking about John Carpenter's original. It has that feel to it, the score does, that I feel like it takes you into the ocean, if that makes sense. Like it makes you feel like you are right there with the people in the fog.
Yeah.
I feel like it starts subtle, but then we get into this really strong and prominent sound. Mm-hmm. And to me, from a visual standpoint, along with the audio, obviously, I feel like as the fog begins to roll in, the music's sort of pulling you in. And then when the fog is there, the music has fully pulled you in.
I like that.
And it, like, I honestly feel like just playing these songs while we're doing this, because I cannot do it justice. Listen to the score from Fog if you're listening to the show, and you'll understand what I mean. Like, it's an audio visual thing that works perfectly in the film. Yeah. So I'm sorry I'm not able to give like more. It's just
no, it's fine.
It's really hard to explain, but you understand what I mean though. Like it pulls you in.
I mean, I think that there are some people have a way of kind of looking at a score. Some people, like we mentioned, they don't really pay attention to it. So sometimes I think it's a little hard to explain what exactly is you're tapping into when you're hearing it. There's something that it's triggering in you. And I feel like with a lot of music, everyone has some music that speaks to you. Like you hear it and you're just like, oh shit, it sticks with you. It stays with you. I feel like that's why some people have very specific genres of music that they like. You love country music. That's your jam. That's what you love. Nothing else will satiate your musical tendencies. And then you've got other people who love film scores, and you got people who love hip hop music, and then you got, there's so many genres out there. I personally have an ear for all of it. I love anything that just makes me, it triggers something in my brain, whether it's this desire to dance, this desire to visualize what I'm hearing through a different lens, whatever it may be. That's just how my brain works. I can't.
No, I get that, because I'm the same way with music. Like I will listen to anything. I've got one other one to bring up just real quick. I don't think this one's slept on, but you talking about it, I'll leave it at this and see if you might know. Whenever I hear this, I instantly get pulled into the film.
Okay.
When I was a kid, it scared the crap out of me. One scene in particular with a clown under the bed.
Mm-hmm.
They used real skeletons in the film. I'm sure you know what movie I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
The film score from Poltergeist.
It's a good one.
Ugh.
Now, that was... who was that? Was that Jerry Goldsmith, maybe? I think. Because I think he
Google,
was...
people.
Yeah, that's right. I'm pulling... Yes, Jerry Goldsmith. Look at me remembering shit.
It's just so wonderful.
It's disarming is what it is, because you're expecting, for a movie like Poltergeist, you're expecting something dark and just vicious, and it can go to those places. In fact, this is not to knock Jerry Goldsmith at all. I feel like he has very interesting work with his music, because tonally, he's never been one thing or another. I feel like he's dabbled in so many genres. At times in Poltergeist, and again, this isn't to knock his score, but I feel like you can... It's getting to this point somewhere, because I think he had done Gremlins soon after, because Poltergeist came out in, 81 or something like that, and then Gremlins came out in 84. So there was this sense or sensibility about it, and within Poltergeist, there's intensity to it, but if you go to Gremlins, there's a similar intensity to it as well that almost comes off slightly comical. But that's for the more, the bigger sequences. But the main theme for that film, oh yeah. I mean, it's all about terrifying you with calm, you know, just the voices, and then just like almost like a lullaby.
Yeah.
And then you're supposed to be afraid, and that's kind of the whole concept behind it, because of Carol Ann and all this stuff. It works on so many levels.
It lulls you into an almost comfort that makes you uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be a great way to put it.
It's one of those ones that if I'm passing candy out to the kids on trick or treat and I'm playing music, that's what I'm playing. Like, I have my little playlist.
I mean, while we're on the subject of him, shout out to his Omen score. You talk about something goes deep. I mean, that's gothic hell music. Just, oh, me. Like, the end of the world is coming, man. It's just fucking intense, dude.
It's that same heavy feeling that it gives you.
And obviously that movie has its own set of... Funny enough, hey, look at that. He did 2 movies that were very troubled productions. Who knew? But luckily the man was fine. He lived to a ripe old age. But no, his scores on both of those.
Maybe he was the one causing the problems.
Could have been. We never where you thought to look. The score. But no, I mean, they're 2 vastly different scores when you think about it, and written pretty close apart. I mean, to one another. I mean, about 5 years apart, give or take, I think.
Yeah.
And like I said, one's just very heavy and just intensifying the idea of, the devil's son is coming to, end the world. It's all about the apocalypse or the concept of that. And then you go to something like Poltergeist, and it's very calming and very soothing and very, hypnotic in a way. And that's a chameleon composer right there. That's what I like to call them. Those that can just play different genres, and you'd never really be able to lock them down. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I can appreciate the hell out of that. Do you have another one, or I'm trying to look and see if there was another one that I wanted to talk about?
One that is kind of out there a little bit. Rosemary's Baby, the theme from that. I don't know how familiar you are with the theme from Rosemary's Baby. To me, as weird as it sounds, there's almost a sensual feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I say that is, you look at the premise of that movie. She's basically part of a orgy, and she gets pregnant with the devil's child.
Mm-hmm.
There's this seductiveness in the music. It's like a dark seductiveness, though.
Yeah.
It's a sensual. I feel dirty that it's sensual kind of music.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's porn music because it's not.
No, but I get what you're trying to kind of point out. There's just something about it.
It's a beautiful thing to listen to, but as you're listening to it, it makes you feel uneasy because you're like, this almost sounds like something you would play in the bedroom to a degree, but at the same time, you're gonna feel guilty about what you're doing at that moment while you're listening to this.
Yeah.
And it again, the same thing with all of these songs. They have a way of pulling you into them.
Mm-hmm.
But Rosemary's, like, to be honest, Rosemary's Baby is one of those movies that I've watched it a handful of times, and I love the film for what it is, but there's just certain things about it that make it a hard watch for me.
Yeah.
And I think maybe
can understand that.
I think maybe the music's part of it. Like, it's not that I don't like the music, but it's so damn good at making you feel dirty.
Yeah.
And it's not even that bad of, like, by any means, it does not sound like, the bang chicka wow wow porn music or anything like that. Yeah, it's a beautifully written score, but with the context of what's happening in the film, with the score, you feel just wrong about the whole situation.
Yeah.
So
you that's a great segue into my next one, because that would almost be the perfect argument for this theme, and that is the theme to Cannibal Holocaust. Now, this movie is a hard watch for anybody who's never seen it. I recently finally dove in and said, fuck it, I'm going to watch this movie just to see what all the fuss is about. And when I say it's a hard watch, maybe not necessarily when it comes to the gore factor. It's just some of the more, I feel like a lot of the disturbing stuff comes through with the sexual stuff. And I understand too that some of the animal abuse stuff, there was a scene, I can't remember what it was specifically. I don't remember what it was. It was some little mammal, and they were having to kill it and skin it or whatever. And
I know they kill a pig and like a turtle in it. And
yeah, this was something smaller, almost like a shrew or something like that. But I can't remember what it was exactly. But it was early on in the film, and you're seeing them just like stab the shit out of this thing, man. And it was hard. It's a hard watch, because this isn't some. I think with a lot of stuff, like for example, what I said about Anthropophagus, when you're seeing the scene where the guy is taking the baby out of the womb, like you have that in your head, for a fact that's not real. Nothing real about it. It's all fake. Got it. So you've already done that disassociation in your head. That is a fucking real scene in that movie. Them sitting there stabbing the fuck out of this animal. And like you said, killing the pig, like tearing that turtle apart. I mean, it's just like, fuck's sake, dude.
Yeah, I just looked it up. So they kill a Cody, which I'm guessing is maybe the little animal you were.
That's probably what it is, yeah.
Turtle, a tarantula, a squirrel, a monkey, and a pig.
Oh, yeah, the monkey. Yep.
And what people don't know about that movie is the animals were really killed in this movie.
Now, granted, they tried to justify it, saying, well, it's going to be used for food. Fair enough, but we don't need to see it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, watching the little, what did you call it again?
A Cody?
Cody? Yeah, watching that little thing, because you see the fear and the pain on its face. I mean, just for an animal, and you're just like, God damn, man. So that one was a little hard for me to kind of, and I'm not a PETA member or anything like that. It's just common decency. I don't want to see an animal get hurt or anything like that. Yeah, that's it. So, back to the score.
Yeah, sorry.
If you the main theme, if you just kind of pull that up on YouTube and you kind of listen to it, it's just very calm and soothing, and there's like a little ooh, but they play it over some of the worst scenes in the movie. And when I say the worst, like just some of the bad stuff you're seeing, whether it's just the cannibals torturing people or rape scenes or things like that, and you're just like, what are you doing, man? Like, it fucks with your head, because it's a beautiful piece of composition played over some of the worst scenes you'll ever see. So, and I feel like that was the whole purpose, is to make you feel uncomfortable. Like they're trying, because in the movie, the concept is like these people went out and found this cannibal tribe, and they're filming all this footage. So all this footage has been recovered from this lost film crew, and another guy is trying to piece together what happened to them, and are they going to show this to the public? Are they going to show all that? And then you have these other people who are trying to dress it up and cut out some of the worst of the worst, and then they are then exposed to the worst of these people doing horrific acts, no better than the cannibals themselves. And I don't know, like I said, the music, it's almost like there to disarm you in some way, or just to make you feel uncomfortable. And I can't quite figure out which it's trying to do, but when it's playing over some of the worst footage that they're showing, it does just set you with unease, because you shouldn't be feeling calm in these sequences. So where it may seem like it's out of place, I feel like it's very intentional in what it's trying to do.
Yeah.
Is just unease you. So
that's a hard movie to watch anyways.
It is.
And you know, it'd be like going to a birthday party and singing happy birthday while the birthday kid is ripping the intestines out of their mom.
Yeah.
Like the music doesn't belong with what's happening.
Yeah.
And so it just makes what's happening even worse.
Sure. Yeah, and I don't know if that's one I could just casually recommend to anybody. You know what I mean? I feel like there are certain horror films that are meant for horror fiends, for those who are deeply dedicated. Now, if you're just someone who likes one every now and again, it's a different story. Yeah. This is not one of those. This is one, if you're looking for the deep recesses of just uncomfortableness, here you go. Let's go to Cannibal Holocaust and see how much you can take.
Yeah, I mean, there are several movies that I feel like people should avoid if they're not big horror fans. Cannibal Holocaust is one. Trigger warning about this one. You know, the I Spit on Your Grave films. Mm-hmm. Those are hard watches because of what happens in them. A film that I have not seen and really don't plan to see, a Serbian film. Mm-hmm. Honestly, if you're curious about what that is, just Google it. Maybe go incognito mode when you Google it, just because you don't want, you know, your browser to be blocked or something.
That shit's been showing up in my, like when I'm going to look through movies to purchase on Vudu, that one's showing up all of a sudden, and I'm just like, fuck you. I'm not.
Yeah, you know, that's my big problem with like search engines and everything. Like, I'll give you a perfect example, not to get off subject too much and fall down this rabbit hole, but I looked up the subject horror. I looked it up on Instagram the other day because I wanted to see if there was any like special effects stuff going on, any new like Halloween decorations, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And my Instagram said something about, if you're thinking about self-harm or this, that, and then blah, 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 blah. I'm like, just because I'm a horror fan and I'm looking up horror means I'm into self-harm? I'm like, no.
Yeah, I know.
And even with the AI thing, I wanted to see what AI would do. So I typed in a little horror story and I said, edit this for me. Instantly came up and it was like, we don't condone violence or blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, this is fictional and it's just a work of of art that I'm trying to edit. Can you edit it? Nope, can't edit it. After doing some workarounds, I got it to do what I wanted it to do, but it's like, come on. Like I'm not trying to figure out how to gut somebody for real or anything. I wrote a story where a guy jabbed another guy with a pitchfork. Just edit it and make it sound a little better.
I feel like I encountered that very thing the other day, and I was like, what is the problem here? And I was like, all right, well, maybe I made it too complicated for you. I apologize. And I walked away from it. I was like, I'm not arguing with a computer. Okay. I've got one.
Okay.
Well, yeah. Okay, so some people may be like, what the fuck? Why are you talking about this and this and this and not, his other well-known scores? So one score that I don't feel like is slept on initially would be the theme to Puppet Master. I feel like that's one of those within the horror community. If you hear it, you'd be like, yeah, I know that. And it's fairly prominently used, I feel like, in every Puppet Master film. I from memory that I can pull from, I feel like it is. But for a movie that I do not care for at all, which is Puppet Master: The Littlest Reich, which is the remake, I have to give credit to Fabio Frizzi, who, again, people are probably wondering why the fuck I'm talking about this score, not The Beyond or City of the Living Dead or whatever. But I've always found his interpretation of Charles or Richard Band's initial theme. He plays on the same link, like the same rhythms and compositions, but alters them ever so slightly. So if you heard it, and I noticed this too, and I feel like I'm on to something here, and I don't know what his process was, but my wife she knows Puppet Master. She knows it inside and out. It's like one of her favorite franchises. And she heard Fabio Frizzi's theme to The Littlest Reich and immediately went, oh, Puppet Master? And I thought that was odd because it was like, well, now this isn't the original theme, but she picked up on it. She knew it was Puppet Master. So I feel like Fabio found the rhythms and did the same score, but changed everything just enough. Because it doesn't sound like it, but it does. You know what I mean? It's like this interesting, line, balancing act that he pulled off somewhere where he changed just enough to where it's the Puppet Master theme, but not the Puppet Master theme. And it very much works within the vein of the film, because this is Puppet Master, but it's not the Puppet Master we know. So it's changed, and I feel like that theme reflects that. Now, as far as the full score, I'm not saying that it's all a banger, but that main theme, it's definitely on my playlist. It's one that I love listening to over and over and over, and I've listened to so many times, and I appreciate the hell out of. So that might be one. That's actually one of the reasons I'm bringing it up, is I feel like that's one that would be overlooked because people know him from the Fulci films and things like that, but maybe not for Puppet Master.
Yeah.
So go back and listen to that main theme for The Littlest Reich. I guarantee you're going to be like, holy shit, it's good. There's just something really familiar and different about it. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and the fact that she was able to pick up on it and it's completely different. Yeah, that's one thing I love when somebody is trying to pay homage to something, not necessarily imitate it, but pay homage to it, and they're able to do that in that way. That just proves that they did something right. So. Yeah,
I mean, if we went into greater detail with other film scores that are outside of horror, I could go down deep rabbit holes because I feel like there are a lot of composers out there who've done a lot of great work when it comes to paying homage, and others that just straight up rip shit off, and I don't feel like they're worth the time of day.
I honestly feel like this could be like multiple parts. I feel like we could talk about horror movie scores quite a bit.
I think I've run out because I'm looking over.
I have one.
Okay, because I like I said, I wanted to stick with ones that maybe people might not be familiar with, and I don't know if I've got any more right now. So tell me what you got.
So this is from a movie that when it came out, it wasn't a commercial success.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's become a classic. Like it's been a classic for a long time. And that's the score from The Thing.
Oh yeah.
I appreciate that score because to me it sort of symbolizes that fear within the people that are there, because it starts with the da-dun, da-dun.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's like a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And then we get into, and I mean, it leaves you at that for a while. Like it just does that for a while. And you start to sort of get this adrenaline a little bit, like, what's coming? What's coming? And then even when the music full-fledged starts, you're still getting that dun 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 dun, and then you've got this bum, and then just all together gives you just this feeling of dread.
Yeah.
And the music itself is almost isolating in a way, because to me it sounded like a heartbeat at first, So I'm instantly thinking of my own heart beating along with the song.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get these like almost like echoes, and this just loud, just boom, and it just gives you this feeling that you are alone.
Yeah.
And looking at the setting, obviously, it really played its hand to help show this state of being alone and there not being any hope.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely give it to that soundtrack. It's not like an exciting song or anything like that. It's bleak and disturbing. So,
Yeah.
but
I got one more just because it popped in my head, and it might not be one of those, but it may be more popular than I know, but
okay.
I don't hear people talk about it, even though I did see that a soundtrack went on sale on vinyl, which kudos. I love the soundtrack to Fried Berry, okay? Hazer is the composer. It's very synthetic, synth pop kind of thing going on. I fucking love it. The track, The Kids Are Not All Right, is my absolute favorite out of the entire soundtrack. I've listened to it several times. That's definitely one of my playlists, but I have listened to the full soundtrack itself. But that particular track, for whatever reason, sticks with me, or has stuck with me all this time.
Yeah.
It's definitely unique compared to all the others, because some of the ones we've talked about are more instrumental compositions with traditional orchestras and whatnot, where this is a full synth. And I guess the thing kind of had synth vibes going.
A little bit, yeah. Not as much as Fried Berry, but...
Yeah, this I guess kind of works on the, what's that? Well, I don't want to call it techno. You know what I mean? It just has that bumping. I don't know. I know music to a degree.
It's almost like a robotic thing to a degree.
Yeah.
Sort of, yeah.
But no, that one is that one's a banger of a track if you want something completely off the wall and different. But it's so good, especially that one track. I love it. I can listen to it on repeat.
The first time you listen to it too, if you haven't, just watch the movie and listen to it, because Fried Berry is just one hell of a treat.
Sure.
You suggested that to me, and I'm glad that you did, because that movie is just nuts.
Yeah, it's a wild ride. I can't wait to see what
okay.
the director has up his sleeve for the next time. But that's all the music I've got for today. Hope if I can come up with more, I'll try to make notes and we can do this again. And if our Ramblers have some scores that they love, would like to recommend, I'd love to hear about it. We can point us in a direction, say, hey, and remember, we all know the Halloween theme. We all know the Friday the 13th theme. Let's go deep. Find one of those film scores that you never hear anybody talk about, that maybe we never brought up or didn't even come close to bringing up. Point it to our eyes. Let our ears take the rein and listen to it, and we'll kind of give our opinion. That would be a great follow-up episode.
I even have an idea. If anyone would want to do a theme for the show, I would love to see what people would think would be a good theme for the Horror Ramblings show.
Sure.
I think that would be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Just gonna put that out there.
Well, Ramblers, let us know what music you want us to check out and talk about on the show. You can do that on X at Horror Ramblings. I think we may be on a few other new social media sites. Have we migrated anywhere like Threads or anything?
Not yet. We need to.
Okay.
We're working on it.
If you want to see us on Threads, you want to see us on Blue Sky or what's some of those others, Spoutable or Hive or whatever. If you'd like to see us there, say, hey, I'm over on this platform. I'd like you to come over there too. Let us know, and we'll do it.
I'll send smoke signals if I have to.
That's right. You can do that. You can send us an email to do that if you are not on Twitter or X or whatever the fuck it's called anymore. I noticed that they're changing things. It's still Twitter and it's also X when you put it in your search bar. I don't know. I want off this platform so bad because I hate talking about it. Anyway, if you want to discuss horror with like-minded individuals, join us on Facebook or join us on Discord. And you can even find us on Instagram, where we try to post up things as often as we can. I've at least been trying to share the show, new episodes over there when it happens, when it drops. So I'm trying, man. If you want to support the show, head on over to Patreon and give us a buck, and maybe we can start doing extra bonus content for you, and whatever that might be. Tell your friends to find us on their favorite podcast platform, and give us a 5-star app on that platform. Help us grow. And if you're using Spotify, see if we posted up a question and poll. I might just post up the question that I posed to you today. What other films, scores, and horror would you like us to listen to check out, or talk about? And finally, if you prefer a central hub for everything, pencilpaperproductions.com/horror-ramblings. Links are in the show notes.
And remember, guys, stay spooky out there.
This has been the Horror Ramblings podcast. Join us next time for even more.
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.